All right, Eric, Larry, everybody here. Thanks a lot. This is going to be a fun Wednesday morning. It's morning for me. I know it's afternoon for you guys on the East Coast. And I just wanted to explain a little bit about the background here. I have a very cluttered office. So see, it's got everything in here. And so rather than showing you all the clutter in my office, I thought I'd either blur my screen or since it's James Webb Space Telescope Week, I thought we'd celebrate a little bit of space vision somewhere around here. Okay, so it's awesome what they've done with that feat of engineering. It's just remarkable. And then the other thing, as Lori mentioned, is sometimes you'll actually catch me looking a little bit up. And I apologize for that in advance because I have a 60-inch screen. And so sometimes I'm looking up because I can't put the camera right in the middle of the screen. That way I'll be looking around a bit. So anyway, apologies in advance for those two things right there, okay? Let me take 1 minute to introduce myself, okay? I've actually been with eGain now over a dozen years. I first came into the company as a VP of engineering, and so took responsibility for, at that time, it was about a 120-member engineering organization, and then gradually shifted to become a VP of technology, looking at new technologies, in particular interaction mechanisms, ways to handle knowledge, and ways to actually develop new business models around that. And then lately, just for the last, I think 3 or 4 years now, my actual title is Technology Evangelist. So it means I don't actually have to worry about the actual releases. I talk to analysts, I give presentations, I talk to customers, usually not quite so happy customers, but we'll try to make them happier. And so I get to do a lot of events like this, which I really enjoy. So I enjoy interacting with you folks. So in real time, if you have any questions, feel free to participate. I don't need necessarily to wait till the very end, but if it helps continuity, I'll let Eric make that call. So judiciously figure out whether we can actually answer questions on the go or whether we are actually going to wait till the end for all of that. A little bit about the structure of what I've got prepared here, okay? We're about 24 years old, maybe 25, okay? So we've actually been around for a while. We have a lot of experience, okay? So one of the things I'll note right off the bat is we're not the latest, greatest, small $60 million startup with Harvard funds, okay? We've actually been at this for quite a while. We've got hundreds of customers. We've got millions of sessions and billions of interactions behind our belt, under our belt. So we're about to share with you what we've learned in all that time. Okay, so let me go to my prepared notes here and start with a bit of content. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up a video which actually lays out a lot of the capability just from our own standpoint, okay, of what we're talking about. I'll try and skip through some of that that's a little bit too salesy. I'm going to admit that up front. Okay, so I'll try and skip through some of that and then really focus on the key points, and then we'll have some Q&A after that, okay? So can you see my screen at this point now? Okay, all right. So let me know if that's not coming through, but this is just the topic we're about to talk about. And if you want to follow along, my Twitter handle is at Sam Hahn, and our marketing department has requested that we use hashtag KnowledgeHubLove if you'd like to tweet about this or otherwise post about it, okay? So let's get into this a bit, okay? There's gonna be about 3 parts to my comments. There'll be a little bit of a demo, which I'm gonna actually do a little bit of a voice over for, and then we'll get into some Q&A if there's time permitting at the end, okay? So the first part here is called a new urgency in customer engagement, okay? Now, it sounds like there's always an urgency, right? What are we talking about, this new urgency thing? Well, we're specifically talking about the fact that for the last 2, 3, 4 years, this notion of digital transformation in the business has actually gotten us to actually invest a lot of money in these digital channels, right? So a lot of people have gone and said, let's go and build out chat. Let's go and put some smarts behind email. Let's put a web self-service portal out there. Let's do all of these things. And you know what's really interesting is the last 2 years has been really interesting, okay? Because whatever plans you had, okay, on your roadmap, the last 2 years kind of accelerated that, okay? If you were already digital, you pretty much had to get digital within the last couple of years. So we all know why, right? But as we developed a lot of these channels, we put them up and we built the pipes and we measured all the interactions and what we looked at all the journeys. What did we find? Okay, our customers are engaged. They're clearly using these channels. They're asking more and more questions, but what are we also seeing? They're still struggling to find the right answers. Okay, now you guys are more hip to why that is the case. But we actually did some surveys and we looked at surveys with other analysts out there. And sure enough, it's not going to be a surprise to you. Agents still don't know the answer about a third of the time. So 41% of these people are saying, hey, I call here, I chat there, I get a different agent. 40% of the time, it's a different answer. Now, this is 2021, 2022. This is actually 2021 data. Well, here we are in 2022. That should be unacceptable. We should not be looking at these kinds of results from our massive investment in building out the enterprise infrastructure, okay? Not only that, if we try and go to a website, hopefully there's a portal or an FAQ or somewhere where you register and say, solve this, it's still a third of the time the customers can't find the right answer themselves. So that all says, hey, we can build the pipes, we can digitalize this, we can actually, make the data flow, but what we're not doing yet is closing those sessions with immediate correct responses, okay? That's really the challenge. Now, so the summary is the channels have proliferated. The adoption is definitely there. We're seeing the traffic explode. With our experience, it's been 2x, 3x, and 3x is quite common since pre-COVID days, okay, all this digital adoption. And if you've done it in a piecemeal fashion, then you're going to get inconsistent behavior around your SLAs, around agent training, around the kind of content / knowledge that's available to them. So now you've got a problem of, trying to make the journey consistent and high quality all the way across. And the more channels you bring on board, the more training you got to do for your agents. And this is not to be underestimated. If you're handling critical information like health data or financial data or legal data, the compliance issues are just going to multiply, because now you've really made it a much harder job for yourself and your own staff to really figure out, how can you make these things auditable? How can you survive an audit engagement where they're going to look through every little bit of interaction here? So complicate that with the fact that we got over 1 million people, and it's probably higher than that are not coming back to work after COVID, right? This is the great resignation we talked about. So what do we want to do? We built out the channels, and you're here in this channel because you're actually familiar with the role of knowledge and how valuable knowledge is, that the quality of what flows through those channels is really the key, okay? And I'm only going to say that once because I don't need to repeat that for this crowd, okay? We've actually got disproportionate investment in the channels and not enough in what goes through the channels. So we looked at various smart people out there, and at least a set of smart people over there at Gartner are saying there's at least 7 best practices to really bring a different experience, a successful experience, to this investment that you've already spent 2 or 3 years making, okay? Now you got to get beyond the tools and really get into what's going, as I said, through those channels. Now I'm going to share with you a little bit of a saying. I was in grad school at Stanford in their AI program quite a long time ago, but they used to say something very, very key, and it was, in the knowledge lies the power. I'm going to reiterate that point a couple of times throughout this session, okay? In the knowledge lies the power, which really means you need to effectively leverage knowledge, not just piecemeal, but you got to have a strategy where that knowledge is connected throughout all of your channels, through different pieces of knowledge, with good taxonomies, with good hashtags, with good authoring, with good version management, with good workflow and approvals. And it needs to have the right connections to every other piece of your enterprise, right? You don't want single repositories being walled off where they could be effective, throughout the entire enterprise. So here are the 7 steps, okay, from going towards that chaos, which is, hey, customer dissatisfaction, even though you've got these digital channels, to how do you get first contact resolution to be a very, very high number, okay? Okay, so the first thing to do is recognize it's a problem we've had, okay? We've not invested in the knowledge, just like we've underinvested, basically, okay? But how can you make it easy? How can you make it fun? Okay, how do you really know that it's going to deliver value and therefore transforms the business? Not only transform the business, but actually transform your customer experience. And that's how they get to be loyal. They get to be your champions, and actually then you get to you let them speak for you. Okay, and it's possible. We know that this is possible because we've seen it. Okay, there's a number of people delivering this. We're delivering it. Others are delivering it. But let's look at exactly what can happen when it's done well. Here's an example we know where there's 30,000 contact center agents, okay? 5,000 retail stores, okay? Boom, when COVID hit, okay, they couldn't go to the retail stores anymore. But their investment in knowledge over a period of, I would say now over half a decade, actually probably getting close to a decade, is that over time, they're able to reduce training time for their agents by half, okay? They get the competency in less than 50% of the time they used to take in order to get their agents on board. And that's a big deal because agent turnover is a big issue in this enterprise. Not only that, the first contact resolution improved 35%, okay? We knew it was already low, okay? But if you can actually get it to be double-digit improvement, okay, and then go from there, okay? You can actually cut down on your repeat sessions and actually then deliver higher customer satisfaction. And those of you that know the Net Promoter System numbers, it's typically called MT score, although it's actually a Net Promoter System. A single or even 5-digit improvement there is grounds for happiness in system deployment. But if you're looking at 25% actual absolute numbers improvement, CEOs, CFOs will be ecstatic to see those kind of numbers. And indeed, that's what we're seeing in this particular development. Okay. Now here's another one. This is a different kind of business. It's not a telco, and this is actually a SaaS business. Okay. And what they're seeing here is that because the agents know that the knowledge is high quality, you got agent confidence. You got that buy-in from the agents to say, hey, I'm not going to get slammed, by delivering the wrong content now. I know this is good. I know it's curated. I know it's high quality, and I know it's well versioned, okay? Which results in 30% increase in customer self-service. You measure it with NPS, or you measure it however you like, okay? They deployed this in 9 months. So we know that these proof points are out there. Oh, by the way, they're actually growing tremendously, okay? 40% annual, top line growth. They actually realize that knowledge is crucial for them to actually grow at that rate and still deliver a good high quality experience to their customer base, okay? That's reflected in their gross margins as well. Oh, by the way, it's multilingual, okay? So they've got not only English, but also Spanish. So what is a knowledge hub? Okay, as I've mentioned and alluded to before, it's a way to take your knowledge and make sure it's relevant everywhere. Make sure that it's well curated, make sure that it's well tagged, make sure it's well authored, make sure that you've got the right workflows, and it's therefore useful any place you're contacting the customer throughout whatever channel you've got. And today, customer engagement happens on just over a dozen different channels, if not twice as that, okay? Just recently, in the last several years, we've seen not just the traditional channels of mail and chat and self-service, but now you've got the social channels, you've got bots, you've got texting, you've got all the big players like Google and Amazon and Apple coming in with their messaging platforms. So that's all huge. And by the way, all of those are where your customers want to interact with you. So you want to make sure that anytime you've got a piece of knowledge or any kind of guidance that you want to provide, that it's relevant across all of those, okay? And that's non-trivial because those are different devices, different display geometries, different interaction styles, different levels of patience, different levels of, let's say, delay between events, okay? So you got to be able to adapt to all of that and make sure that the knowledge is still relevant at the right time. And all of that is, you make sure that the knowledge is generated in a single place with a single process, and then you actually customize it and personalize it and adapt it to each of these channels and different audience types, okay? This compliance note I'm going to bring up again, okay? When you've got legal or otherwise overview of all of this, I'm going to mention something in the demo and later on that says we guarantee compliance with some mechanisms that we provide. Okay. Now, it's going to actually be a big spectrum that we can actually look at. It used to be the knowledge used to come from very specific, very experienced agents or experts, right? But now you've got more and more around in content. Now that content still needs to be evaluated and it needs to be personalized. But if you move back even more, you've got a lot of big data. There's a whole pipe between what is data to what is content to what is knowledge to what is actually appropriate wisdom and the right guidance at each particular step. So that whole spectrum of things is what a knowledge hub will help you manage, okay? Not just the product at the endpoint, which is the SMEs content, but all of this stuff that actually is flowing into those pieces of guidance. And it needs to be everywhere, okay? And it needs to be personalized, like I mentioned, and all of this improving via learning. So I don't want to go through too many success points. You're actually going to see this very easily. We are spread across, and we've seen a lot of this deployment spread across a number of different industries. And these are some of the scales that we see. Hundreds of thousands of articles, hundreds of thousands of users, hundreds of portals, even in a single organization, hundreds of authors, thousands of topics. This is complex. And if you don't have a platform that makes it easy, it's easy to get bogged down. It's very quick to get bogged down. So here are the Gartner 7. What do you need to do? Okay. And how do you actually get an effective platform and approach where you can actually do all of these? First, outside in, not a surprise, right? Think from the standpoint of the customer experience, and then look at how you're going to measure your success. Second, make sure you're reaching everywhere. Okay, this sounds trivial, but in those cases, you have to decide, are you going to leave the content there or are you going to bring it in? If you bring it in, now all of a sudden you have synchronization problems, okay? Are you going to index it for crawling or are you just going to then bring it in and index it in your own repository? So this gradation between having cached copies to having just indexes to having the actual content in your possession, and then how these all migrate from one state to another state, okay, is another mechanism that we make easy for you, okay? These are all the in the trenches kind of lessons that we're learning, okay? It's not flashy to say this, but it's really, really effective when you do it correctly. So you take a look at over time what happens, okay? Certain types of content diminish, like maybe the stuff in this particular repository over there. And as we build out our ability to federate, now all of a sudden we can crawl, and we can actually reach out in more real time, leave the authoritative versions elsewhere in the enterprise. So you're going to see some of these repositories grow, and some of these repositories actually decline. And all of this is going to be very well managed if you've got a good platform that actually makes this easy for you, okay? Obviously, search is a key component of all this, okay? So let me highlight that the smarter the search is, the less and less user interface you have to see. right? Some of you remember a very complex search engines many decades ago, actually just a couple decades ago. But you take a look at the smartest ones out there, it's a single edit box, okay? Just type whatever you want into that edit box, and it's gonna look at what your intent is. Has it seen this request before? Is it gonna look in that repository or that repository? Is it gonna suggest a related topic? Does it actually already have the answer because somebody else just asked it just yesterday or 10 milliseconds ago? So all of this is really powerful, but the user interface is so simple, okay? So the more you're actually able to do from a system standpoint and a technology standpoint, the simpler you can actually present that interaction mechanism with the user. And yet it still spans all of these technologies: search, personalization, intent inference. This is where we've really been focusing on the last 2 or 3 years. Learning, natural language understanding, which by the way we've been doing for two decades already, and making all of this seamless, okay? If you've got this, then that simple search can be effective everywhere, on your portal, in your chat, and then I'll mention the other automated sources as well. The experience. This is actually a little bit more involved, but you're going to see behavior patterns that are either straightforward, okay, they're just one thing leads to another. That's kind of a data-driven or event-driven way. Or you can actually start from a hypothesis, as we indicate in the bottom right. Start from, have I seen this before? Let me verify whether that's the case. And then nullify that hypothesis and go to another one. Just using just the initial expression of the query already allows you to do kind of a best match guess. And then you can actually try and verify that as well. All of this represents different kinds of engineering, different kinds of engines, different kinds of reasoning. And if you actually then do it integrated, then you can deliver the best results of each of these approaches at any given time. This one is a hot topic because more and more, and probably now going on maybe half a decade at least, okay, the whole idea of chatbots has been tremendous. There's been such an investment in automated assistance. And here's the question. How many of you feel ready to actually hide the fact that your bot is actually a bot, okay? This is actually a very, very dangerous position, because I think that from our knowledge of the ecosystem out there, we're not quite at that step yet, okay? Where we're very confident that we can just say, hey, this is Linda or that's Gary, and they're going to help you, okay? It's still best practice to say, hey, we're going to do a limited set of use cases, and this is a little assistant who will escalate to a live agent for you at the next question that you may be puzzled with. So we're not quite there yet, but we're very close. We are very, very close, okay? And here's another interjection that's a commentary I would make, okay? And that is that unlike buying other software, buying knowledge-based products, buying intelligence-based, talking about the problem with virtual assistants and whether or not they are, let me minimize this screen, smart enough to actually pose as actual entities, but the practice is still that they're just on the cusp. I would say within single-digit number of years, we'll probably get to a stage where we could probably, in limited domains, actually say, hey, this is an entity who's actually going to take care of you for all of your issues, okay? But we're not quite there yet. Okay, let me just say that the personalization around knowledge is something that we didn't actually get into until fairly mature in the process. But as we encounter more and more large-scale knowledge deployments, it becomes more and more important, okay? From a training standpoint of agents, as well as just the fact that some of these enterprises have just complex galaxies of products. And so it's almost impossible to address in training what you really need to do for agents to be so effective. And that's why this personalization and contextualization is so important. You got to be able to quickly narrow down to that part of your knowledge base that is actually relevant to the product, to the user, to the agent, to the situation, to the symptoms, to the diagnostic state that you've actually reached. And without tools that actually let you slice and dice this way, you'd have agents searching and taking many valuable seconds, many valuable minutes, and possibly even escalating to second level experts and SMEs. Whereas if you've got this correctly done, the knowledge is quite at the fingertips of the agent and also at the user, okay? Search engine optimization is something probably everybody's already invested in already, so I'm not going to spend too much time here. But the other aspects were what I really wanted to focus on to say all of these have to be done if you're going to really get some value out of your knowledge investment, okay? Now, at this point, I'm going to fire up a quick little demo, and I'm not going to step through the entire demo, but I'm going to step through key pieces of it and really bring certain points to light, okay? So this is a hypothetical bank called 8Bank that we've set up. And by the way, this video is available to some of you that want to watch it in its entirety. But just to get you going, this is my colleague Vivian, who's actually leading us through this demo. And what it's doing is it's showing you how you can actually step through the process of, let me get to the right point in the video here. All right. Showing you certain choices to pinpoint what's integrated from our knowledge base into the website of the actual business. None of this is coded. All of this is provided via widgets, and all of this is provided via declarative, point and click interaction with our authoring system. But through it, you can get very effective display and deployment of that knowledge. For example, this FAQ widget off to the right here, that is one way that we expose. And oh, by the way, that's reaching across the enterprise into a number of other different data adapters and different knowledge repositories to bring together a concise set of articles that it thinks is relevant for where you are in your process through the website, okay? Now, the reason I wanted to focus on this is right around, let's see, minute number 7 or so, right here. We actually have the emergence of a bot. So I'm going to fast forward through that segment here. And I'm going to let Vivian finish up this segment of going through the structure of the website and actually show you how a bot now takes over, okay? So
this is actually going to be your instant answers, which is the ability for your system to gather more context on this, the question or what it is, the recommendation, right? So we'll go ahead and we can see, am I eligible for the gold program? It tells me a little bit more about the gold program, any links that are relevant. I can
So this was just basic content, basic search for now, okay?
Go on to as well. But in this case, it goes even further and says, I can get you your answer. What state would you like to know about in terms of availability? So I'll go ahead and let's say I'll do California, right? And it'll tell me information such as the 8Bank Gold program is not available in California. We do have an alternative, and then it'll give me a link to the alternative program. But as you can see, it was a way for the system to gather more context to really give me the recommendation or the solution that I'm looking for. Now, if it wasn't because of that context piece, I would have to do a little bit more looking to determine that, hey, I actually don't have the ability for the gold program. Since I live in California, I'm not eligible for it, right? Instead of having to find that information myself, having to look throughout the entire document, the system was able to do that for me with our instant answers. Now I'll go back to the home page of 8Bank, right? In this case, I'm going to showcase another way for your customers to find the information that they're looking for, another proactive way. Now, in this case, instead of a widget, we have the virtual assistant.
So here's where the chatbot comes in, okay? This is where we actually provide the knowledge that's delivered to an interactive bot that's just sitting off to the side.
Virtual assistant's ability to really help your customer find the information that they're looking for, and if it's not able to, then escalate it accordingly to the right person. So I'll go ahead and click on the virtual assistant. You can see that the virtual assistant greets me, welcomes me to the website, and then proceeds to ask me if there's any questions that I have. In this case, I'll go ahead and just ask a question of what is the charge on my account. So I'll go ahead and type it. What is this charge on my account? Now you can see I've misspelled is, or I've typed in something incorrectly. Right? I can even go ahead and say, you know what, let's do account with 1C, search that up. The virtual assistant will say, okay, well, just to make sure that we understand what it is that you're asking for, it verifies, I understand you're looking for information on a charge in your account, correct? Right, at this point, I'll go ahead and say yes. Thank you, I can help you with that. Could you please provide me with the charge transaction number? I'll go ahead and type that in really quickly. Now you can see right now the virtual assistant actually is gathering in information to be able to detect.
So this is a case where in an authored article, there's no coding involved here, okay? But in this article, which a knowledge analyst or a business analyst could write, okay, it can just say, reach out to that external database and bring back some information. That's what's happening here.
Determine first what system and then who I am. And then be able to relay that information to me, the information I'm looking for, which is why am I getting charged? Thank you. For security purposes, please tell me the last 4 digits of your national identity number. So I'll type that in so it doesn't, so the system is able to understand that I'm not just some random person, I am the actual account holder. And then from here, you can see that the virtual assistant was first able to type.
So it found a transaction and said, is this the transaction that you're actually contesting?
Identify who I am, thank you, Mary. It was then able to bring up the charge. I was able to pull up the $34 charges based on the transaction number. And then it was able to tell me as the reason as to why I was getting charged. And in this case, it's because an overdraft happened. Right? And then it gives me some more information about the overdraft. Even further than that, it can even say, or continue the process and say, would you like to dispute this charge? We'll go ahead and say yes. So you can see at this point, the virtual assistant is actually being trained to escalate this customer to a live agent, because for our business, we've noticed that customers tend to get frustrated when they want to dispute something. So it'll be easier to.
Yeah, so this is definitely one of our experiences is that, you know, when customers are already irate or unsatisfied, they typically want to interact and sometimes even vent with a live agent, okay? So a bot is probably not well equipped to do that at this point. And that's the point that Vivian is making here.
Just escalate the situation. However, the virtual assistant also is able to escalate based on the customer's sentiment through keywords. The virtual assistant can determine when to escalate this conversation, or in another sense, if the virtual assistant doesn't understand anything at all, it's able to escalate and then learn from there. So in this case, it searches up whether or not an agent is available. Right? Currently, an agent is available, and then it asks me, would you like to be added to the queue? I'll go ahead and say yes. And then from here, I'll be escalated to a live agent. Now,
so this is what a contact center agent would be looking at, okay? They were looking at the session off to the left, at the entire interaction, and off to the right is what the system is thinking, hey, what would be useful to show the agent as they're interacting with this customer, okay? So notice that the content on the right changes and it adapts, and it actually provides guidance and even suggests things to say to the agent as it sees this whole session play out.
The system, you can see I have that new chat. Right, this is the advisor desktop for anybody who hasn't seen it before. The left pane is going to be the inbox pane, the center is going to be the response pane, and then the right is going to be the information pane. Now the information is, as you'll see in a bit, it's not just going to contain knowledge article, but it's also going to be information in regards to the customer as well. But I'll go ahead and click on the activity. From here, I have the entire interaction with the virtual assistant all available for me to read through so I can understand what information was already shared with the customer. I can minimize this and focus only on the question, which is what is this charge in my account? But I don't have to do any type of searching. I don't have to press on the solve button to automatically search up that customer's phrase. The system is actually able to determine where the virtual assistant has left off and then continue on from there. Right? All I have to do is then look at the question, add this to response, which will then give my customer the ability to respond. Now, once they've responded, you can see the system is able to automatically understand and go to the relevant next, or the next relevant question, or the next.
And I want to stress here again, this is not coding. This is all authored content. This is all authored reasoning.
Critical question. Now I can, of course, spend all my time adding every single question to response, but which is fine. But if I'm a busy person, if I've got a lot of interactions coming in that I need to handle that take more precedent over this one, I can actually turn on bot mode, which would then let the system or the virtual assistant take over and front this conversation once again.
So what happened was the session escalated to a live agent. The live agent was able to take the correct determination and then hand the session back to the bot so that the bot can actually then proceed with the rest of that transaction. And the agent can then monitor and just look over the shoulder of the bot and make sure that they're still aware of what the customer is doing. But at least this frees up the agent to do other things in the meantime.
As an agent, I can focus on other critical inquiries or critical interactions. Right. Now at this point, let's go ahead and say that the customer is responding, right? You can see it updates automatically. Yes, sign me up, right? I'm not doing any type of agent interaction. Right, at this point, they've confirmed an upgrade, right? They've gone through the process.
Yeah, so those are all bot actions, right? Not agent actions.
Of identifying and disputing this charge, and then we were able to upsell as well. Now, finally, afterwards, I can come back to this as an agent. I can review all the information that was shared by the customer, right? I can look at the final solution article, add this to response, and send this over and let them know. Now, one of the nice things about our knowledge base is, if you've noticed, it's actually the same knowledge base that your customers can utilize as well. So this knowledge, this central knowledge hub can be pushed out to be both external and internal facing knowledge. Right? This can also be the same knowledge used by the virtual assistant as well. Now that I've gone through and helping out the customer, right, I do want to focus a little bit more on the agent knowledge. Of course, we've already shown.
So you'll notice that the knowledge pane was actually adapting in context with what was going on with the actual session, okay? And it's suggesting things, and it's actually collating all those answers that have been asked and responded to down here in a summary. Okay, now the remainder of this is just, I'm going to show you a quick screenshot of it, is how this also assists a voice interaction. So I think Vivian will show a voice coming in, a voice session coming in.
And then display it so that as an agent, I really only have to focus on the process.
Right. So as a voice call comes in, now this knowledge panel adapts to actually suggest, hey, you may want to say the following. And this is how, if you're actually saying, I did this, this is how you provide auditable evidence that you're in compliance with disclosures, with regulations, with right processes. So we actually have a very easy way for you to stay compliant with all of those guidelines by just making sure that these checklists are actually acknowledged. Okay.
At this moment, right? And you can see it's the same thing that we went through earlier with the guided help, being able to break down your complicated procedures into step-by-step pieces, making it easier.
Okay, so I apologize in advance because that was actually quite a long video, so I only wanted to show you certain components of it and then come back to the discussion of the point here, okay? And that is that hopefully you're able to get that the knowledge was utilized multiple different places, had contextualization, reached out through multiple different channels, was carefully authored, was used as a guidance both for the agent as well as for the customer. So all of those points, and I'm not sure I made all 7, but anyway, so hopefully you got that out of the fact that, here's what a knowledge management solution could do for you. And all of that required no coding whatsoever. Okay. All of that was via declarative and content generation and just very simple point and click interfaces that allow you to do this kind of a rich interaction style and allow your customers to go from the web self-service portal to a chat interaction to a live agent to even a phone call. And all of that is supported by the same platform with the same set of knowledge. So a little bit about eGain, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit salesy, okay, is that we've been around for about 24 years, 25 years now. It's 2022 already. And we were born with the premise that eventually all of these customer interactions were going to go digital. And sure enough, 2 years ago, that basically came to fruition. So the whole COVID thing was unfortunate, but at least for eGain, it caught us prepared. We were actually able to help a number of our customers really move towards digital interaction and engagement with the customers, and especially repurpose the field agents that were out there that could no longer go to a retail store or even go to someone's home and actually train them to then utilize this particular set of capabilities. That's too salesy. I wanted to let you know that we spread ourselves across a number of industries, but these are our 5 biggest. And these are very recognizable names you'll probably see, both here in the US as well as in EMEA. And these are in the global, 500, maybe global 100, some of them. Yeah. So anyway, these people, in particular, federal and state government and tax collection agencies, both here in the US as well as in the UK, all trust our platform, okay? It's not a small thing to say. They're one of, I believe, a small, maybe 200, 250 vendors who are actually FedRAMP certified, which means governments trust us with their data. So healthcare institutions do as well. So we have an offer for people who may think that this is relevant. If you think this is relevant for your business, we have a no-risk way of taking advantage of this, okay? That in 30 days, on our nickel, no risk to you, okay? We will actually look at your website, we'll crawl it a little bit, we'll put together a little demo of what our capabilities can do. We're not gonna do any fancy integrations in 30 days, but we'll at least show you what we can do and what, more importantly, what the customer experience might look like if you were able to leverage this and provide this to your customers, okay? The point that I made at the beginning, knowledge is power. Scientia potentia est, okay? Francis Bacon came up with this, and I think it was recorded by Thomas Babbage. This is really the focus that I think we've lived with for the last 24 years. And this is eGain's lifetime, but it goes back even beyond that, okay? In the knowledge lies the power. To really unleash the power, you have to really carefully craft and nurture and build your knowledge base and how you utilize the knowledge, okay? So we just would like to do that for anyone who's interested, and we have a no-risk 30-day offer. And so contact one of my colleagues or myself, and we'll try and make it easy for you, okay? So sorry about the little minutes of salesiness at the end. That's how I earn my keep here. And I think we can probably go to some Q&A at this point, okay?
Looks like we have a chat question here, Sam, from Zubida.
Sure.
You'd like to check that?
Let me bring up my chat window and let me see if that's there. Okay. Actually, Eric, do you want to like prioritize or filter these? How would you like to handle this?
Right now, we only have a few that just came in. So I think Zubida was the first, and then let's see, that would be it for now. If you scroll down to the latest.
Implement a solution. There's often some prep work or a certain stage of maturity an organization needs to be. What is that for us? Okay, I love this question. It's a cultural question, okay? And this is one that actually affects success and, we may not say failure, but challenge a lot, which is, and I think I alluded to this in part of the presentation and the demo. The whole knowledge management rollout process is a change in culture. So if you're not willing to invest, okay, so you've already invested in the technology, right? You've invested in your portal, you've invested in your digital channels, you've invested in your engagement model. You need to also make that same decision with your knowledge. And by that, I mean, give someone the responsibility to really carefully curate, organize the knowledge. It's probably a team, a cross-functional team, and really look at what you want to do first. In other words, this whole analogy of a toddler, make sure that you train this, you nurture it, you actually grow it, you actually put up with its little tantrums here and there, you actually put up with a few mistakes, but all the while it's getting smarter, all the while it's getting better. If you don't have that level of patience that you might have with a toddler, okay? Computer, cancel. Sorry, that's Alexa. Computer, cancel. If you don't have that level of patience, then you're probably going to be dissatisfied to say, hey, I expect expert level performance on day one. So that's point number one. Point number two is think carefully about, step one, okay, of those 7 steps, think outside in. Think from the standpoint of the customer experience. And by that meaning, are they likely to call? Are they likely to go to a website? Are they likely to go to a phone? Are they likely to chat with you? And think first about what you want to make easy. Once an organization is mature, obviously this is going to cover all of those channels and all of those options, but pick off, where you think you might be able to first automate. And by automate, I mean, how is the organization going to learn how to do this? I don't mean how it's going to be most effective from a knowledge and ROI standpoint. That's, I think, something you want to get to after you learn the process. Computer, cancel. By that, what I mean is, if you've got the mindset that you're going to put together a knowledge base, computer, cancel. I really apologize about this. I really apologize about this. Let me just go unplug that the next time it does that, okay? And if you're willing to just say, I'm going to put a whole team, and I'm going to put up with some time period and some level of patience and some investment, and a team's really responsible for all of that. I think that's actually criteria for success. It's not a technology question. It's more a culture and organization question. So I'm sorry about the long lengthiness of that response, but that just triggers what I see in a lot of organizations about they want to make the investment in the technology, but they don't want to change the organization. And that's probably the biggest challenge right there. One of them, anyway.
Thank you, Sam. We still have one more here from Paul Burns. If we just scroll down to his.
Let me scroll down. Are there plans to build a workflow to the eGain solution for content logging? Actually, the workflow already exists. So we already have, in fact, it's a designable workflow. We have a default workflow out of the box that says, here's a group that could actually author, and then depending on how your organization is set up, do you need 1 or 2 approval stages? Do you have more than 1 person at each of those steps that can give the approval? So we have those by default, and you can actually design those and add additional steps. You could even have automated steps in there if you like. And so I think the answer to that is an emphatic yes. That was one of the things that we, by the way, this knowledge product is one of our most mature products. It's probably older than the company. And because I say we actually acquired a company and then built on top of it. And that company was actually around even before eGain was there. So this is actually a very mature product. And the workflow has been there for quite some time. In fact, it's been there since before I was there. Yeah.
Okay, well, I just put out a call for any other questions before we wrap up. We're almost at the top of the hour here.
Again, my deep apologies for Alexa. I should have turned that off first.
That's what editing's for. So the recorded version will be a great version. All right. Well, if that's it for folks with questions, I think we can drop off now. And again, we will have the recording available for everyone. Will you be sharing the slides, Sam, or is that proprietary?
Yeah, I'll have Michael send them to you, or I can. I'm pretty sure I have your email. Yeah, I'll send them to you.
Great, we'll do that. Sam, thank you very much for joining us today. This was very informative.
Thanks for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day. And
hope that was useful.
Bye-bye. Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.